Back in 1991, HAL Laboratories and Nintendo came together to create a cutesy, kid-friendly classic on the Game Boy, starring everybody's soon-to-be favorite pink puffball, Kirby, in his very first game, Kirby's Dreamland. You play as Kirby, making his way through Dreamland to stop the evil King Dedede and his army of baddies who have stolen all of Dreamland's food as well as their Harvest Star used to grow it. Sounds like they should trade that Harvest Star in for a Harvest Moon, am I right? Anyways, the story is stupid simple, but I'm not here for that. I'm here for a good game, and boy does Kirby's Dreamland deliver. In this game, Kirby has two main gimmicks, his vacuum attack and the ability to fly. Remember, this is before Kirby gained the ability to steal foes' powers. That was introduced in the sequel. By pressing up, Kirby inflates and can fly. Pressing B will deflate Kirby as he unleashes a puff of breath, which will destroy most enemies in its path. Pressing B on the ground will allow Kirby to do his signature vacuum attack, and any enemy or object within range will be sucked in and promptly spit back out as a projectile. The game designers at HAL took these gimmicks and ran with them, as levels are cleverly built around them, with blocks and enemies scattered about for you to suck up and spit back, and long distances you'll need to fly over to gain access to the next section. Certain levels have you flying upwards from platform to platform, reminiscent of Kid Icarus. Some put your flying capabilities to the test by lining floors and ceilings with spikes and pits, while others have sections made entirely out of inhalable blocks that you must go through to get to the next platform. Also, keep an eye out for secret areas, both high and low, for the occasional 1-up and health pickup. You may also come across power-ups like the bomb, Fire Curry, which allows Kirby to shoot fire for a brief period of time, and the microphone, which kills all enemies on screen since Kirby is no Jigglypuff. Just like the levels, the boss fights are excellently crafted around Kirby's abilities, once again proving that the game designers knew how to use a simple concept to its full capabilities. Bosses are creative and designed with Kirby's vacuum attack in mind, meaning you are left waiting for them to supply you with some sort of projectile. There's the tree, where you have to wait for apples to drop, King Dedede, whose stars you have to inhale, and the shoot-'em-up boss, which I swear was a requirement for platformers on the Game Boy to have. Even HAL's own Lolo makes an appearance as the second boss. Besides Kirby's gimmick, each level tends to have its own based on the theme. The castle level has many doors leading to dead ends and attempt to get you lost. The island level has long stretches of water for you to fly over and ruins to navigate through, and the sky level focuses more on precise platforming with tons of instant death pits and flying enemies. Speaking of the themes, all of the levels are nicely detailed with imaginative design and wonderful set pieces that change as you progress from one part of the level to another. Levels feel as if they spew bright, friendly colors at you despite being in black and white. Enemy sprites are large, well-drawn, and have the perfect balance of evil yet cute. But don't underestimate them or you might pay. What the fuck? It's funny to see Meta Knight's humble beginnings. Who would have thought he'd become a central antagonist to the series based off of this first game? The few complaints I have with this game lie in the controls. They're kind of floaty, no pun intended. First off, Kirby runs with momentum. When trying to quickly turn around to avoid enemy contact, you have to fight this momentum, which holds you in place for a split second or two. Think of it as having a tiny bit of ice physics to deal with. From time to time, I would accidentally inflate myself trying to turn around, or just at an inconvenient time, and would take damage. Actually, now that I think about it, turning around seems to be this game's biggest problem, as it's sometimes unresponsive and the root of all of my previous complaints. Of course, these are just minor flaws that hardly get in the way. What's a delightful game like this without a little charm? Kirby's Dreamland is chock full of it and is up there with the likes of Kid Dracula in terms of cute, yet awesome platformers on the go. From the opening level cutscenes to the level completion dances, this game never fails to put a smile on my face. I mean, just look at him. Kirby may not be amused, but I am. You gotta love that stupidly adorable end scene. Oh, and you know a game's good when even its game over screen has charm. Wake up, little buddy, we got work to finish. The music is pretty good, but not great. Don't get me wrong, there are some absolute classics on this soundtrack like Green Greens, Floating Islands, and the boss theme, but not all of the tracks quite hit that sweet spot that others do. The songs are all competently composed and fit well with their respective levels, but outside of the game, only a handful hold up in my opinion. If you're yelling at the screen right now saying, "Fuck you, that soundtrack is flawless," remember, this is just my opinion, and as a musician myself, I'm a little bit of a music snob. Regardless, hats off to Jun Ishikawa for composing the entire soundtrack himself. Fun fact, Mr. Ishikawa has been a regular composer for the Kirby series and most recently worked on Kirby Triple Deluxe, released in 2014 for the 3DS. I mentioned at the beginning of my review that this game was made by both HAL and Nintendo, but in fact, it was developed by HAL and only published by Nintendo. That's not to say Nintendo didn't have any involvement on the project, because they did. Well, more specifically, Shigeru Miyamoto did, and wanted Kirby to be yellow, while Kirby's Dreamland developer Masahiro Sakurai wanted him to be pink. Of course, Sakurai got his way, and Kirby was deemed pink, which is how he appears on the Japanese box art. Nintendo of America, however, decided to make him white based on the game's grayscale. Kirby wasn't originally supposed to be the puffball we all know him as. Sakurai only made him as a placeholder character until a more detailed one could be made. But the development team fell in love with the design and decided to keep him the way he was. Kirby's Dreamland is a wonderfully crafted game that has charm gushing out of every pore. It's abundantly clear as to why Kirby went on to become a beloved franchise based on this first game. It's a great platformer that anyone can pick up and play, as it was designed with that intention in mind. This is a must-have for any Game Boy collector or platformer enthusiast. It's a little on the pricey side for a Game Boy cart, trending at around 10 to 20 bucks, but it's far from the most expensive Game Boy game. And if you aren't willing to shell out the cash for a physical cart, then scoop it up for a couple of bucks on the 3DS store and see where it all began for Kirby.